How do you feel about that?
Local News Live here on AOC 1, on AOC 2, I'm sorry, not on AOC 2, on Cypress Street Radio, and of course on AOC Community Media's YouTube page. You can find that by searching AOC Community Media if you can't keep watching on TV. But if you are watching on TV or wherever you're watching or listening to this presentation, this is a public service of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate, our local paper, and thanks to our local journalists, and also in partnership with our local volunteers like Danan, who's joining me this morning. Good morning, Danan.
Good morning, Matt.
How are you doing this morning?
Doing excellent. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well myself. We're glad to have you reading the news for us this morning. I'm going to let you take it away. Go grab my coffee and listen on Cypress Street. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, April 23rd. And so my name is Danan, and I am here at my home with my cats, Lumiere and Mignon. And we are going to read the news for you this morning. So settle in and relax. Our first story is by Sam Carlin. State nears benchmarks for reopening. Louisiana is moving closer to meeting 14-day trends recommended by the White House to begin reopening, officials said Wednesday. Governor John Bel Edwards plans a Monday announcement for what coronavirus-induced restrictions on businesses and residents will look like on May 1st, when the state's stay-at-home order is set to expire. The next phase of restrictions in Louisiana is highly anticipated as economic losses and the state's outsized death toll from the virus continue to mount. While officials race to figure out what measures will be in place starting next week, Edwards asked business leaders for help managing expectations, indicating the state will still mandate strict social distancing when the economy begins to reopen. Excuse me. So sorry. When that reopening begins, the governor also said the state will be watching closely for a spike in cases, which many epidemiologists say is all but certain, to make sure Louisiana doesn't again near a point of overwhelming hospitals. If that happens, Edwards could halt the reopening or ratchet restrictions back up again. We know it's not necessarily a one-way street, Edwards said, of loosening restrictions. We would like for it to be a one-way street, but we're going to have to move slow enough to know what's going on. It's not clear how Louisiana's case count, hospitalizations from coronavirus, and other indicators need to be kept in order for the state to continue moving through the phased reopening once it begins. But Edwards said health leaders are working on it. During a call with Edwards' newly formed economic task force, excuse me, which will provide recommendations for how to navigate the reopening of the economy. Alex Bilyeu, Assistant Secretary of the state's Office of Public Health, said the state is trying to avoid reopening just to reclose if it moves too fast and without the input from businesses. We want to avoid that at all costs, he said. Much like it did with ventilators and personal protective equipment, Bilyeu said the state is acting like a middle person with testing resources as officials work to dramatically expand the state's testing capacity as part of the reopening strategy. Officials have said the state needs the ability to do a minimum of 140,000 tests a month and more ideally 200,000, which would represent roughly a doubling of the state's capacity. In order to reopen, officials and health experts say Louisiana needs to get to a point where it can more closely track infections and the people who came in contact with those who are infected, a process known as contact tracing. When the outbreak was first discovered in the New Orleans area in early March, Louisiana Department of Health workers tried to trace the contacts of those infected to get them to self-isolate, but they quickly became overwhelmed by the sheer number of cases. With the number of cases, hospitalizations, and people reporting flu-like or COVID-19 symptoms all trending downward, officials hope to have a better handle on such tracking when the reopening begins, possibly starting May 1st. Still, officials are urging people to wear masks in public and continue to practice social distancing. Edwards also implored people to get tested for the coronavirus if they're experiencing symptoms, calling it a vital part of the state's effort to reopen. We really need you wearing masks when in public and coming in contact with other people, Edwards said, adding he will require the media to wear masks to attend his daily news conferences. In addition to state-specific guidance provided by health officials here, Edwards said the state is looking to White House guidance for reopening. According to that guidance, the first phase still involves serious restrictions. The elderly and people with serious health conditions should continue to shelter in place. Everyone in public should practice social distancing and avoid gatherings of 10 or more where social distancing is not practical. Businesses should encourage telework. Schools and daycares should remain closed. Visits to senior facilities and hospitals should remain prohibited, and bars should remain closed. The first phase of Louisiana's reopening remains unclear, as Edwards said his administration is still working out the details. Epidemiologists say the greater prevalence of serious health conditions like obesity and diabetes in Louisiana makes the prospect of reopening dicier, and work is needed to make sure the increase in cases that comes from reopening doesn't bring with it a wave of new deaths. Louisiana is ranked near the top of the list in the U.S. for deaths per capita. Several GOP lawmakers have called on Edwards to begin opening the state up by May 1st, and the governor has said the state will be under a different order at that point, indicating the more restrictive stay-at-home order will not be in full effect. Meanwhile, New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell has already announced her stay-at-home order will stay in place through mid-May. Following a severe oil price crash, Edwards also directed Louisiana Revenue Secretary Kimberly Robinson to delay the collection of severance taxes, the bulk of which come from oil, gas, and timber. The taxes, due April 25th, are now due June 25th, Robinson said. Severance taxes usually bring in about $40 million a month in revenues for the state, and in fiscal year 2019, the state hauled in $529 million in severance taxes. Louisiana stood up a temporary hospital facility at the Ernest N. Memorial Convention Center in New Orleans last month, when it appeared the region could run out of hospital beds and ventilators to treat patients. Edwards said the facility will remain in place as officials see the possibility of an uptick in the future that would really threaten our ability to deliver health care. The state is opting out of standing up similar surge facilities at 2 New Orleans hospitals. Excuse me. Testing capacity in Lafayette is still in question by Ben Myers. Coronavirus testing capacity in Lafayette Parish remains an open question, even as officials oversee distribution of 100,000 donated masks to support Mayor President Josh Guillory's Safe Shop policy. The policy announced last week was the first of its kind in Louisiana. It allows gray zone businesses that are non-essential and not specifically prohibited from operating during the pandemic to reopen on a limited basis. Guillory said Wednesday about 75% of the parish's businesses are in this category, an increase over a previous estimate of 60%. To further his measured approach to restarting the local economy, Guillory announced on Wednesday that Lafayette police officers will deliver free masks directly to businesses in predominantly Black city council districts 1 and 5. But testing capacity in the parish and the Acadiana region is still not at desired levels, said Tina Stefanski, the regional director for the state health department. We don't have all the testing capability to test everyone, even at this point, everyone with symptoms, Stefanski said, speaking to reporters Wednesday. Stefanski said Acadiana, defined by the health department as the parishes of Lafayette, St. Martin, St. Landry, Iberia, Vermilion, Acadia, and Evangeline, needs to add as many as 300 tests per week. Weekly testing capacity changes constantly because of it, it is conducted by commercial labs, Stefanski said. She said she is not sure about the current testing capacity. Part of the testing demand will be fulfilled at the SWLA Center for Health Services Clinic in Lafayette, which started providing free drive-up testing last week after the Cajun Dome testing site shut down. A commercial lab, LabCorp, is providing 100 tests per week, according to the center's nursing director, Emily Ashworth. Test results are being returned within 2 to 3 days, she said. Ashworth said the clinic in North Lafayette will test anyone who shows up, but added that only those who have symptoms or who believe they have been exposed should do so. The center's criteria for testing is more lax than what was in place at the Cajun Dome drive-through site, which shut down last week. Residents were told to seek testing at the Cajun Dome only if they suffered acute symptoms or if they were considered high risk. But Ashworth said more widespread testing is necessary for businesses and customers to reopen with confidence. She encouraged businesses to send employees who are unsure if they have been exposed. Somebody has to meet that need for us to be able to gear up and go back toward opening up in the cities again, Ashford said. Researchers at Harvard University's Saffer Center for Ethics recommended in a report this week that economic mobilization should occur in sync with workforce testing to prevent cycles of opening up and shutting down. The level of testing and supported isolation we need depends on how effectively we can trace people's contacts, warn those contacts about their exposure and need for a test, test them, and isolate those who are COVID positive, the report states. Asked if there is a certain testing capacity that corresponds with safe implementation of Guillory's policy, Stefanski said those questions are being considered by Governor John Bel Edwards' office. The governor's office has already signed off on Guillory's policy from a legal perspective, noting in a letter to the administration that gray zone businesses were always eligible to remain open under Edwards' stay-at-home order. The letter did not opine on the public health ramification of Guillory's decision. Edwards said Wednesday he will announce the first phase of loosened statewide restrictions next week. Guillory's policy limits eligible shops to 25% occupancy while requiring employees to wear masks and everyone present to maintain 6 feet of distance. Remaining closed are fitness centers, barbershops, nail salons, and other grooming businesses, along with public amusement businesses such as bars where social distancing is impossible. Violations can result in fines of up to $500 and 6 months in jail, although Guillory said he didn't expect there to be any. Enforcement will occur through proactive police checks in coordination with municipal departments and the sheriff's office and in response to complaints. We are not going in there guns a-blazing. We are not going in there kicking doors. We want to help. We want to help our constituents be safe. We want to help our businesses be in compliance, Guillory said. In Council Districts 1 and 5, that will mean door-to-door police visits, both to distribute masks and to do compliance checks. That effort is in response to disparities showing that Black people are dying from the virus in disproportionately greater numbers than other races, said Carlos Harvin, who serves as Guillory's Chief of Minority Affairs. We know many minority businesses were already struggling before COVID-19, Harvin said. COVID-19 has just put one more barrier, one more burden. We are here to help relieve that. We are just very glad we have got these masks as a tangible way to say we care. There are 45 new Acadiana cases that have been reported, said Ben Myers. Well, written by Ben Myers. The 7 Parish Acadiana region recorded 45 new confirmed coronavirus cases, driven by a large increase in Iberia Parish, according to the State Health Department's daily update. 4 additional deaths were reported as well, bringing the total of deaths in the region to 78. There are now 1,188 confirmed cases in Acadiana, defined by the Health Department as the parishes of Lafayette, St. Martin, St. Landry, Vermilion, Iberia, Acadia, and Evangeline, which has a population of about 600,000. Well, while the increase in known Acadiana cases has slowed in concert with the rest of the state, the rate of increase in Iberia outpaces other parishes in the area. There are 217 known cases in Iberia, with 22 added Wednesday. That's a 32% increase in Iberia over the past week, compared with 13% in Acadiana as a whole and 12% statewide. 3 of the 4 new deaths in Acadiana were reported in St. Landry, which has seen an abnormally large number of deaths. At least 25 of the 29 deaths in St. Landry have been nursing home patients or staff, said Dr. Tina Stefanski, the state's regional health director. It wasn't clear on Wednesday afternoon which nursing homes in St. Landry have seen deaths. Administrators with 2 of the 7 nursing homes in the parish, Eunice Manor and Tri Community Nursing Center, which together are home to about 160 people, said none of their residents had tested positive. The other 5 administrators either declined comment or did not return calls. Stefanski, speaking to reporters Wednesday in Lafayette, declined to say if the increase in Iberia Parish cases came from any new nursing home clusters. There are clusters in a few nursing homes throughout this region, Stefanski said. Acadiana Parish cases and increase over Tuesday. The numbers are as follows. Lafayette, 435 cases, up by 6, 17 deaths. St. Martin, 202 cases, up by 9, 13 deaths. St. Landry, 140 cases, up 4, 29 deaths, which is up by 3. Vermilion, 33 cases, 1 death. Acadia, 117 cases, 7 deaths. Iberia, 217 cases, 11 deaths. And Evangeline, 44 cases with no deaths. Council okays $1.5 million loan transfer by Claire Taylor. The Lafayette City Council on Tuesday approved a $1.5 million transfer needed for a loan authorized last year for a University Avenue development. Bottle Arts Lofts has been touted as a catalyst to revitalize a neglected area of North Lafayette. The transfer was one of the last hurdles to the project, set to begin in late May with demolition of the Les Pay Motel at the corner of University Avenue and Cameron Street. HRI Properties of New Orleans plans to transform that property and others, including the former Coca-Cola plant, into a 40-unit complex. The former City Parish Council in December approved the loan, but the new City Council needed to transfer the money from other accounts. The city is the 3rd mortgage holder and will not be paid back for 45 years. Tuesday's unanimous council vote followed a long discussion in which council members Liz Aber and Andy Nachwin changed their minds. Iberia was on the city parish council and voted in favor of the loan. But with businesses closed because of COVID-19, a 35% dip in sales tax revenue, and oil prices plummeting, she said we're in for an incredibly difficult budget year. Nocwin called the loan a 40-year no-interest gift to a private investor to build apartments for low-income residents. I understand that area needs improvement, but at what expense, Nocwin said, adding the project won't help people who live in areas like East Bayou Parkway on the south side of the city. $5 million in federal community development block grant funding has been committed to the project, and the Acadiana Planning Commission provided $500,000 to help secure the grant, which the commission had to fight to get because the money usually goes to projects in New Orleans, said CEO Monique Boulay. A private investigator won't take on a private investor won't take on a project with this kind of blight without government help, but it's because it's too risky, she said. Do you want to keep the blight for another 40 years, Boulay said, or work with somebody who knows how to make these projects worthwhile? Councilman Glenn Lazard urged council approval for the area that's been neglected for decades. The city is facing financial troubles, he says, but shouldn't put everything on hold because of it. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory opposed the transfer, saying he agrees it's a worthwhile project, but does not support giving away $1.5 million to a developer. If the council wants to give away money, he said it should go to small businesses in the city. HRI Communities President Josh Collin said the project is ready to start and closing is set for May 12th. The firm has secured a building permit and plans were approved by the city. HRI has a draft mortgage note and guarantee that was shared between HRIs and the city attorneys, he said. When he met with Guillory on December 30, Collins said the newly elected mayor president didn't express opposition to the project, instead saying he wouldn't do anything to derail the project put in place by former mayor president Joel Robideau. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have television. We're looking for teachers and others who could offer something of educational value to send in content to air that will enrich the lives of children staying home all day. To submit content for Learn United, visit www.unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Canceled blood drives, coronavirus fears severely impact blood supply. FEMA, CDC identified blood donation as essential function, and the U.S. Surgeon General tells people to give blood. It's essential for patients. The coronavirus responses have severely impacted the U.S. blood supply as Vitalant and other blood centers across the country are struggling to maintain stable inventories. With school closures and workers at home, 25% of Vitalant's blood collections anticipated in March have disappeared almost overnight, and that number continues to grow. Through the end of June, Vitalant, the nation's second largest blood collector, has had over 1,400 blood drives canceled, resulting in nearly 41,000 uncollected blood donations. Vitalant strongly recommends that healthy donors schedule an appointment for a donation over the coming days and weeks, instead of donating without an appointment right now, to help us better serve donors. So please call 877-258-4825. That's 877-258-4825, or visit vitalant.org, vitalant.org. Vitalant has nearly 125 donation centers across the country, and donors can also give blood at mobile blood drives, which must continue to be organized. Blood donors and mobile blood drives will be needed in the coming weeks and months to ensure a stable blood supply for hospitals. The Lafayette Vitalant Blood Donation Center is located at 1503 Bertrand Drive. So get on over there, people, and give some blood. Our next story is Schools Release Grading Guidance for Seniors by Kate Gagliano. Lafayette Public School seniors and graduating juniors now have a path forward to determine their grades and chart a path to graduation amid the novel coronavirus uncertainty. The Lafayette Parish school system released guidance Monday, walking students through how their final grades will be calculated, what standards students must meet to graduate, and deadlines for remediating non-proficient grades. District spokeswoman Alyssa Dickerson said the district is focusing on guidance for seniors before publishing information for students in grades 11 and below. Mark Robillé, district chief academic officer, said in reply to emailed questions that graduation is a monumental achievement that has required years of dedication, persistence, and commitment to one's education. And the district doesn't want the coronavirus pandemic to derail students' efforts. Senior year is a pivotal time in a young person's life and will have a long-lasting impact on their future, he wrote. We want to make sure students are able to achieve all the original goals, aspirations, and milestones that were targeted at the beginning of the year and insight before COVID pandemic pressures were put in place. Proficiencies will be determined using an average of the final grades for each 9-week period the student was enrolled in the course. Final grades from each 9-week period for a course will be assigned a point total based on the grade. 4 points for an A, 3 points for a B, 2 for a C, 1 for a D, and 0 points for an F. For a year-long course, the student would average points from the final grades for the 3 9-week periods they were in school. For a semester-long course, the student would rely on their 3 9-week periods final grade only. A student must score 1 point equal to a D or higher overall to pass, the district statement said. Dickerson said in a Wednesday call that a failing grade in an elective class not required for graduation should not prevent a student from graduating. That low grade could, however, impact their GPA and eligibility for the Taylor Opportunity Program for Student Scholarship or other programs with GPA requirements if not remediated, she said. Students in online and credential-based courses must also complete a certain percentage of their coursework in order to pass. For fall online classes, students must complete at least 60% of coursework, and for spring courses, they must complete at least 30% of the material. For credential-based courses, students must meet at least 51% of course standards to pass, the district guideline said. If a student is failing a class, there are 2 options for them to recover their grade to pass. The student's teacher can assign work to prove proficiency and assign credit, or the student can elect to meet Edgenuity online learning targets, and the teacher can review and decide if credit should be awarded. A failing grade can be recovered from any 9 weeks period, the release said. For grade recovery, the teachers have a lot of leeway. It's their discretion because they know their students best, whether they do a paper, whether they do an extra or do extra assignments, Dickerson said. Students in jeopardy of not graduating were identified by teachers and school counselors and were offered Chromebooks in order to complete remediation work. Teachers and school staff also worked with those students to secure access to Wi-Fi to complete the work, or alternately, to work out a plan for printed materials if internet access couldn't be secured. Students have until May 15 to complete teacher-assigned work and until May 8th to complete Edgenuity recovery work. Students in the district's Lafayette Online Academy program also have until May 8 to recover their grades to graduate. In a video covering the guidelines, Robillé said families should contact their students, counselors, and teachers with specific questions and guidance on needed remediation work. We know these last few weeks have been full of anxiety and distress, as there have been many questions for us to answer and many unknowns for you and your student. As we continue to get guidance and information, we will do our best to relay updates and information to you all, he said. Robillé said there is no new information about graduation ceremonies, which were originally scheduled for May 22 and 23. AOCC summer session to be online only by Ken Stickney. South Louisiana Community College this week will register students for what appears to be its first online only summer enrollment. The change was made to meet social distancing requirements because of the pandemic created by the spread of the coronavirus. Spokeswoman Christine Payton said summer enrollment starts Thursday. The admissions office on Monday started notifying students individually who applied for summer courses about when they might contact advisors and admission counselors who will be available between 9 a.m. and noon. The advisors will talk students through the enrollment process and answer questions. Students will be served based on their admission date, the admissions office said in an online announcement. Some of the SLCC courses are listed as hybrid, with classes offered online, but switching to face-to-face instruction if the pandemic subsides and it is deemed safe to return to classrooms. Two kinds of distance education courses also will be offered: synchronous and asynchronous. The former means some classes will meet the same day and time using Zoom, Webex, or Big Blue Button. The latter means that students will access courses at their convenience and submit assignments by certain dates without interaction. It's not like what we are doing now, which is remote learning, Payton said of the spring semester classes that were transferred from the classroom to online to meet social distancing requirements. Payton said that time spent with advisors and counselors is intended to make up for summer orientation. She said that students can also access chat box on the SLCC website to ask questions about different services at the college. Summer classes begin May 15th, the day after graduation, Payton says. Classes are offered for various lengths of time. Payton also said some programs are on hold as SLCC awaits a return to classroom instruction. Payton said that includes programs with mandated laboratory classes or hands-on instruction requirements. She said students who started those classes during the spring semester but could not complete them because of social distancing requirements will resume their work when it is safe. An employee giving campaign led to the distribution of $100 gift cards to 130 people on campus. These cards were distributed last week by security personnel who placed them on vehicle windshields for recipients. Payton also said that some SLCC students and faculty members struggled to handle their spring semester courses when the switch came from in-classroom instruction to remote learning. She said mental health sessions were offered to students and teachers to deal with stress. State Police Training Academy suspended indefinitely by Leah Sken. State police have indefinitely suspended their next training academy for new recruits because of revenue reductions during the coronavirus pandemic. The agency announced the decision on its Facebook page Wednesday, saying the training academy for Class 100, which had been scheduled to start this summer, isn't happening after all. Louisiana State Police has been severely impacted by revenue reductions and resource reallocations, officials said in the Post. The situation has caused us to make difficult financial decisions moving forward. Applicants should be aware that an upcoming training academy class is not anticipated at this time. State Police spokesman Trooper First Class Taylor Scrantz said the agency's budget comes from independent funding streams outlined in state law, such as Office of Motor Vehicle fees and gaming revenue, not from the statewide general fund. Officials didn't elaborate on what exactly is causing the crunch, but said the possibility for unexpected budgetary funding could lead to the availability of academy classes in the future. State Police typically hosts an academy each year, though classes have been postponed because of budget constraints in the past. The size of each new class also depends on how much funding is available. Scrantz said the agency was hoping for 100 new candidates participating in the summer academy. That would have come close to filling the total number of allotted positions, which stands at 1,133. Currently, 1,050 of those positions are filled, which is an improvement over recent years, thanks to annual academies that have been supplementing the ranks. Staffing fell to about 900 troopers statewide in 2003 and 2004. However, Scrant said the agency has seen hiring freezes before under past administrations, which had significant effects on manpower. He said it remains to be seen whether the revenue losses due to the coronavirus will bring about other changes. The most recent state police academy graduated in January, following 22 weeks of intensive training, at which point 51 new troopers were added to the agency's ranks. That class came under scrutiny after some cadets suffered significant injuries during the training exercises, which resulted in allegations against the officers in charge. State police said in October that 3 troopers were transferred out of the agency's training division in response to those allegations, and at least one was later demoted in rank. The agency has not released additional information about the internal investigation. Officials said Wednesday that people should continue to submit applications for whenever the next class takes place. Louisiana State Police remains dedicated to recruiting the best men and women from across the country and encourages interested applicants to continue to submit the initial cadet application to be added to the hiring process pool, they said. The police. Phone flashed before Metairie shooting by Ramon Antonio Vargas. An off-duty college campus police officer investigating why a car alarm was blaring outside his Metairie home shot a teenager in the head after a bright light on the boy's cell phone suddenly flashed, something the officer mistook as a firing gun, the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office said Wednesday. The sheriff's office said its detectives are still investigating the confrontation that led William Daniel Short to shoot a 14-year-old boy in Metairie last week. Short has not been booked with a crime, and sheriff's investigators intend to consult with the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office to determine whether he should face charges. According to the sheriff's office, Short went outside his home in the 4800 block of Grammar Avenue about 3:10 a.m., April 17th, because a car alarm was going off. He feared they may have been criminal activity occurring, so he grabbed a gun, headed outside, and ordered 3 people he saw to stop where they were. 2 immediately ran off, but the third, who had an object in his hand, remained, the sheriff's office said. Deputies later learned that the object was the boy's cell phone, which had a feature that made a bright light shine when a call came in. The sheriff's office said it has confirmed the boy's phone received an incoming call around that time. According to the sheriff's office, Short saw what he believed to be a muzzle flash coming from the object in the boy's hand, which he feared was a gun. Short fired once, and the bullet hit the boy in the head, the sheriff's office said. The sheriff's office said Short realized the boy was holding a cell phone after he approached him. Short gave the boy CPR, and another resident of his home called 911. First responders took the boy, whose name has not yet been released, to the hospital. An update of his condition wasn't available, but he remained hospitalized Wednesday. Deputies later found other minors who had accompanied the wounded boy. The sheriff's office said they admitted their group of 5 had snuck out of their homes and were joyriding in a car that belonged to one of their parents. They parked the car near Short's home while the group dropped off a friend who lived close by. 2 from the group got out of the car and 3 stayed behind with the vehicle's alarm activated. The 3 who had stayed back then climbed out of the car, tripping the vehicle's alarm. Those 3 minors were walking away from the vehicle and near Short's home when he encountered them. Short and the teen are both white, authorities said. Although the case remains unresolved, it could potentially be a test of Louisiana's stand your ground law, which enables people to use lethal force against anyone who they reasonably believe could badly harm them. Short works as an officer with Southern University at New Orleans Police Department. University officials couldn't immediately be reached Wednesday about whether Short's employment status was affected by last week's shootings. Previously, Short spent 14 years with the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, attaining the rank of captain before he was fired in September of 2017 following a failed drug test. Okay. Keeping calm through COVID hotline. If you are feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health emergency, There's a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors available 24/7. All calls are confidential. If you're having problems, stress, fear, anxiety, or other issues, please call 866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. The New Orleans Hard Rock Hotel demolition talks back on. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell's administration returned fire Wednesday in its running conflict with the developer of the failed Hard Rock Hotel project downtown, even as officials said discussions over a new demolition plan for the partially collapsed building are hot and heavy. On the eve of a key court hearing Thursday before Civil District Judge Kern Reese over the demolition, city officials for the first time chronicled the lurching history of the developer's efforts to tear down the hulky 18-story carcass above Canal and North Rampart Streets. Ramsey Green, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Infrastructure, rebuked claims made this week in court filings by the developer, 1031 Canal Development LLC, and lead developer Mohan Kailas, that the city is trying to railroad their plans to tear down the building. On the contrary, Green said, the developer has repeatedly failed in putting forward a workable plan to take down the building, which collapsed from the unfinished upper floors on October 12th, killing 3 workers. The city issued a lengthy fact sheet on Wednesday describing 5 separate proposals it says the developer has now put forward to either implode the building or take it down by conventional means. In each case, he said, either the developer backed out over the sticker price, the contractor bailed, or safety concerns scuttled plans. Okay, we're now going to go to Today in History. Today is Thursday, April 23rd. It is the 114th day of 2020. There are 252 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on April 23rd, 1616, from the old style calendar, English poet and dramatist William Shakespeare died in Stratford upon Avon on what has traditionally been regarded as the 52nd anniversary of his birth in 1564. On this date, in 1898, Spain declared war on the United States, which responded in kind 2 days later. In 1943, U.S. Navy Lieutenant John F. Kennedy assumed command of PT-109, a motor torpedo boat in the Solomon Islands during World War II. On August 2nd, 1943, PT-109 was rammed and sunk by a Japanese destroyer, killing 2 crew members. Kennedy and 10 others survived. In 1968, student protesters began occupying buildings on the campus of Columbia University in New York. Police put down the protests a week later. The Methodist Church and the Evangelical United Brethren Church merged to form the United Methodist Church. In 1969, Sirhan Sirhan was sentenced to death for assassinating New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy. The sentence was later reduced to life imprisonment. In 1987, 28 construction workers were killed when an apartment complex being built in Bridgeport, Connecticut suddenly collapsed. In 1988, a federal ban on smoking during domestic airline flights of 2 hours or less went into effect. Wow, can anybody remember those days when they used to smoke on airlines? That's funny. In 1996, a civil court jury in the Bronx, New York, ordered Bernhard Goetz to pay $43 million to Daryl Cabey, one of 4 young men he'd shot on a subway car in 1984. In 2005, the recently created video sharing website YouTube uploaded its first clip, Me at the Zoo, which showed YouTube co-founder Jawad Karim standing in front of an elephant enclosure at the San Diego Zoo. 10 years ago, the Coast Guard suspended a 3-day search for 11 workers missing after an explosion rocked the Deepwater Horizon oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico. 5 years ago, blaming the fog of war, President Barack Obama revealed that U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan had inadvertently killed an American and an Italian, 2 hostages held by Al-Qaeda, as well as 2 other Americans who had the leadership roles with the terror network. 1 year ago, President Donald Trump met with Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, hours after bashing the company and accusing it of not treating him well because he's a Republican. All right, let's see whose birthdays we have today. Actor Lee Majors is 81. Hockey Hall of Famer Tony Esposito is 77. Blair Brown is 73. Writer-director Paul Brickman is 71. Actress Joyce DeWitt is 71. Filmmaker, author Michael Moore is 66. Actress Judy Davis is 65. Actress Valerie Bertinelli is 60. Actor, comedian, talk show host George Lopez is 59. U.S. Olympic gold medal skier Donna Weinbrecht is 55. Sorry, I'm looking down the list here. Professional wrestler, actor John Cena is 43. Actor, writer, comedian John Oliver is 43. Retired Major League Baseball All-Star Andrew Jones is 43. Actress Jamie King is 41. And our thought for the day comes from Hamlet. Perfect, since it's Shakespeare's day. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. Wow, I like that one. Okay, here's our horoscope, the zodiac for today. Taurus, don't get stressed over the inevitable. If you keep your thoughts to yourself, you'll be able to work toward your goal without interference. Do your best and hone your skills. Gemini, move forward regardless of what others do. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Follow your heart, not someone else's words. An important relationship should be a priority. Cancer, an upfront attitude regarding what you are willing to give and what you expect in return is encouraged. Don't linger over unfinished business. It's time to get things done. Leo, plan a trip that will benefit you personally, professionally, or educationally. Get back to doing the things you enjoy most. A new challenge will spark your enthusiasm. Virgo, a personal assessment will encourage you to let go of what's no longer working and get on with your life. Don't be afraid to invest time and money if the returns look promising. Libra, satisfy your curiosity, do things differently, and make new acquaintances. The possibilities are endless if you visit places and do things that are conducive to networking. That would be terrific if we didn't have this stay-at-home policy. Scorpio, grudges and revenge are a waste of time. Free your mind, engage in activities that promote creativity instead of fear. Positive thoughts change the way you live. Sagittarius, an unexpected change at home will leave you wondering what to do next. Nurture meaningful relationships and distance yourself from troublemakers. Put home and family, not work, first. Capricorn, let your wisdom and experience lead the way. Say no to an ultimatum or anyone trying to control your actions. Protect what you've worked so hard to achieve. Aquarius, hone your skills and look for alternative ways to earn extra cash. You have a wealth of talent that you could be putting to good use. Don't hold back when you have so much to gain. Pisces, take a new approach to an old idea. Don't let fear set in when change is what you need. Let your intuition guide you and embrace the future with optimism. Aries, a partnership will face turmoil if you cannot agree. Consider the compromises as well as the gains before making a decision. Address problems promptly in order to ease stress. So there you go. That is our horoscope for today. And remember, it's an entertainment feature. It is not based on scientific fact. Okay, let's go back to our stories and see how we're doing here. Louisiana nursing home death toll nears 500. This is by Famon A. Roberts III. Deaths from the coronavirus in adult residential healthcare facilities, including nursing homes, rose to 464 on Wednesday, an increase of 61 deaths from Monday, the last time the state reported on the impact the virus has had on such homes. There are now 2,402 confirmed cases in 205 facilities, the state reported Wednesday. But that total comes from an expanded pool of homes, unlike before when the tally was focused on nursing homes. Now, according to the Louisiana Department of Health update, the totals include nursing homes, assisted living facilities, inpatient psychiatric behavioral health, and drug treatment facilities. Wednesday's numbers, however, highlight the particular vulnerability of people who are housed in close quarters with others and who may already be facing health problems. The 464 deaths in such facilities is nearly one-third of the state's total of 1,473 deaths. State officials have, since April 1st, refused to name the individual facilities in which confirmed cases of COVID-19, the disease caused by the virus, have been found. They note, however, that many residents of these homes already suffer from underlying health conditions that may make them more susceptible to the disease, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, or obesity. Those vulnerabilities have been on graphic display at the Southeast Louisiana Veterans Home and Reserve, where as of Monday, 22 residents have died and 47 others have tested positive for the virus in the worst documented outbreak in the state. At Lambeth House in New Orleans, 18 residents died and dozens more were infected in a similar outbreak. Over the weekend, federal officials with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said they would require homes to report that data directly to CDC. The Louisiana Health Department will next update its totals for adult residential health care homes on Monday. Okay. Emergency plan for delayed elections gains support. This is by Sam Carlin. Two key Republican-led legislative committees and Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards have agreed on an emergency plan for the delayed spring elections after GOP lawmakers rolled back the number of reasons people could access mail-in ballots that were included in an initial plan debated last week. GOP lawmakers on the state Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee, who balked at the original plan because they claimed the expansion of mail-in ballots would invite voter fraud into the elections, approved the revised plan unanimously Wednesday morning. The House and Governmental Affairs Committee later approved the plan on an 11-5 vote. It also needs the approval of the House and Senate. The new plan, submitted by Republican Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin, reduces the number of reasons people can qualify for an absentee ballot out of concern for the coronavirus. Originally, the plan would have allowed absentee ballots for those 60 or older, those subject to a stay-at-home order, those unable to appear in public due to concern of exposure or transmission of COVID-19, or those caring for a child or grandchild whose school or childcare provider is closed because of the virus. All those reasons are gone in the new plan, which applies only to July and August elections, but could provide a foundation for the November presidential elections if the coronavirus makes a resurgence in the fall. The remaining reasons people would be able to access a mail-in ballot, according to the revised version, include those at higher risk because of serious medical conditions, those subject to a medically necessary quarantine or isolation order, those advised by a health provider to self-quarantine, those experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis, or those caring for someone who is subject to a quarantine order and has been advised to self-quarantine. Republicans in Louisiana have claimed a more robust expansion of mail-in ballots would tarnish the integrity of elections by inviting voter fraud. Election experts, fact checkers, and studies have repeatedly shown that while the risk is slightly higher with mail-in ballots, voter fraud is still extremely Rare. Ardoin said he worked on the plan with Republican Attorney General Jeff Landry and legislative leaders. This week, he won the support of Edwards, who called it a reasonable plan. Some Republican state representatives said they were still concerned about the mail-in ballots in the plan because they would not require a doctor's note to prove people had COVID-19. Democrats on the House and Governmental Affairs Committee chastised the rollback of absentee ballots. Democrats have pushed for a larger expansion of mail-in ballots amid the coronavirus, citing voter safety. Wisconsin's GOP legislature and Democratic governor failed to reach a deal on an election plan and held a presidential primary early this month that was widely considered a disaster, with people waiting in long lines to vote in person in the middle of a pandemic. Louisiana's plan also expands early voting from 7 to 13 days, changes some polling locations originally located at senior citizens and gives hand sanitizers to voters, among other changes. The elections in Louisiana slated for July and August include the presidential primary, which is now virtually over, along with party positions and local elections across the state. The full House and Senate must approve the revised plan for it to take effect. Both chambers will vote by mail. Okay, I'm going to finish up with a couple of PSAs. Medicaid Resources. If you have lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. That's my, Medicaid, medicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 888-342-6207. That's 888-342-6207, or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid, Post Office Box 91283, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public. If additional assistance is needed, remember to call 888-342-6207. Stop the spread, call instead. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Well, I think that's it for today. I just wanted to encourage everyone to stay at home. I know it's really hard. It's been hard for me. If you do go out, use a face mask, can't hurt, and stay 6 feet away from everyone. We're going to get through this, everybody. Just stay the course. This is Danon, and I want to thank you for listening. All yours, Matt.